Hello, welcome to Spotlight on the SCCOE. My name is John Gundry. I'm Superintendent of the Santa Clara County Office of Education in San Jose, California. This morning we're here to talk about the importance of early learning. This is a topic that has been on my mind for a number of years, especially when I was principal of an elementary school where I had a significant number of English learners and children who were living in poverty, many of whom came to school unprepared to learn. And I noticed anecdotally in those days, even before I knew anything about the research in early education, that those who came to us for preschool, we had a full-day preschool program for many of our children. The ones who came to that program were more successful than those who didn't. And so over the years, I've become much more familiar with what the research says in this area of early education and the importance of child brain development in the early years of life. And so that's what we're here to discuss today. We have two guests with us today. The first one is Avo Mekdessian, who's Director of the Center for Early Learning at the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. And I also have Dr. Lisa Kaufman, Executive Director of Educare California at Silicon Valley. So welcome to both of you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Lisa, why don't we begin with you? Tell me about Educare California at Silicon Valley, what it is, what you do there, and what the role of the County Office of Education is in the partnership.
Sure. So Educare is part of a national network of schools. There's actually 21 across the nation. The one in Silicon Valley is the 21st and actually the first in California. And we offer everything from high-quality early learning classrooms for infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, as well as a family resource center. And together, those direct services are serving over 700 young children and adults in the Santee neighborhood of East San Jose. In terms of the partnership with the Santa Clara County Office of Education, the office has been a part of Educare since day one. In the value and championship that the county office has historically had around early learning, the day that Educare was brought, the idea of a vision for Educare was brought to Silicon Valley, the County Office of Education was there. And since that day, that was 5.5 years ago, the county office has been involved in everything from supporting the development of the building, starting the classrooms. It actually operates 8 of the 12 in the Educare building, from continued leadership and governance, including, not to name names, but actually in terms of governance on being on the board of directors and also supporting policy as well. So the county office has been there, continues to be there, and we're just delighted that that you and the office continues to partner with us.
Well, thank you. Why do you think Educare is so important that all of these different community partners came together to create that site?
I think the strength of the public-private partnership has been, and you alluded to it great in the introduction, has been just the importance of early learning and how important it is, and the brain research really affirming what parents have known, what community members have known, but really starting to inform policy in a way that's put a lot of wind in the sails of talking about investing early really makes a difference, and makes a difference both in terms of long-term student achievement outcomes, but also in the cost savings it can mean, and also additional revenues it can mean for better employment opportunities for citizens as they grow into adulthood. So I think that with all of that, that's why it's been so important, and it's a place that can combine high quality practice to show what it looks like with the research validating that can also then inform policy.
Well, thank you. Avo, the Community Foundation is involved in a number of different things in the area. So tell me how education figures into your priorities, and early education in particular.
Sure. Thank you, John. Thank you for having us as well. The Silicon Valley Community Foundation is the largest community foundation in the country. And as such, we focus on, as you said, a number of different issues for philanthropy, but also for convenings, for advocacy work. And some of those include transportation, affordable housing, K-12 education, immigration, and financial and economic stability in our communities. One of the more recent areas that we've been focused on is early learning. And our goal out of our Center for Early Learning is to really raise the importance of the issue to be on the same level of some of these other community issues I mentioned, like affordable housing and transportation and K-12 education. And so we want to ensure that early learning is on sort of that same level of priority for our community.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about funding at the state level. The governor has proposed a budget, and there is some money there for early learning. But just tell me what you think about the governor's current budget and how it places early learning as a priority or doesn't?
Right. I'll start out, Lisa, but essentially the latest round of budgets, or the budget that came out of the governor's office, wasn't too kind to early learning and frankly didn't have any new funding for early learning. Why that's important is because early learning spending in the state is about $800 million short of where it was in 2008. So we have a long way to go in state investment for early learning. Fortunately, we have some legislative leaders, including the Women's Caucus and the State Assembly Speaker and the Senate President Pro Tem, who are very supportive of early learning. They understand the return on investment, what it means for the California economy, and for local school districts. And so they've been able to negotiate more funding for early learning more recently, and we're hoping the governor will sign the latest budget package.
Can you say a few words about the return on investment, what you mean by that?
Sure. Economists across the country, most notably economist named James Heckman out of the University of Chicago, won a Nobel Prize on his work around what the return on investment in early learning does for not only the child and the family, but the rest of society. And that return on investment is anywhere between $7 for every $1 invested up to $17 for every $1 invested. And so we've known time and again that the best investment we can make as a society into our economy and into human development is early on.
Right. And I know that the research in closing the achievement gap also says that this is the best strategy for making a real difference in the achievement gap, is preventing it up front rather than trying to deal with the consequences of it later. And the problem is funding, because it does take some significant funding, and that return on investment is often the future. You know, I think that's why we have some resistance to making the kind of investment it requires. Lisa, what do you have to say about the governor's budget proposal?
Well, I
or anything related to funding that you'd like to say?
Well, I think one of the really important pieces of EduCare is it's a place to be a policy lever. And really what it's such a beacon for is saying why early learning is so important, but also saying really to inform this is what high quality looks like, this is what it costs, and how can we inform policy to really change it, not just for the kids that attend EduCare, but for all of the kids in the state of California who are very young. And in terms of the governor's proposal, totally agree with what Avo has shared, is what's important is while it looks like it's more funding, really is it's funding to continue the restoration of the $1 billion cut that we experienced in 2008. So it really isn't an increase, it's really filling a huge hole that continues to exist. What I would say that's nice is we're on a trend of talking more about how do we restore those funds and how do we tie it not just to access, but access to quality. And I think those are really important trends that we're starting to see. And with the great legislative leadership we have, I think we've got really great wind in our sails to continue an upward trend.
And do we have a good idea what a high quality program looks like?
I certainly think with EduCare and others, both in our county and state, we certainly have great models. Generally speaking, in terms of high quality, a lot of it really comes to high quality environments and high quality adult interactions with young children. So in many high quality centers, you see environments that are calm, nurturing, have appropriate stimulating activities, have ample outdoor space so children can explore and be creative. Also teachers with bachelor's or highly qualified with bachelor degrees. In the case of EduCare, we also have coaches who have master's degrees supporting those teachers. We also have very low teacher-child ratios, and that really maximizes the quality and the dosage of high quality interactions between children and their teachers. So those are just a couple of examples. And then of course, like family engagement, parents being a huge part of the education partnership are just a couple of examples of what make it high quality. And certainly you can see those things in practice at EduCare.
Right, now I know the research says that I think something like 80% of a child's neural connections are formed in the first 2 years of life. And so that's before they ever come to you at EduCare. So how do we deal with that issue?
I think that's a great question, and I think that's a huge I think it's a huge, important area of policy is the infant toddler space. I think what we're so fortunate to have at Educare with the partners, including COE as both, and First Five Santa Clara County and many others, is we have a family resource center that actually is serving an additional 500 kids and their caregivers beyond those served in the classrooms to support the community at large. Many of whom don't have access to a high-quality early learning experience, who live in the Santee community. That is a way of supporting those young children, and what we see is there's a high volume of infant and toddlers and their caregivers who are actually utilizing the Family Resource Center. The other thing that we have, thanks to the county office leadership and that of Eastside, is we're actually operating 6 infant toddler classrooms, and those are a great place to actually show this is what 0 to 3 high quality early learning can look like for young kids, and to bring legislators to see this is what that brain development, this is the climate, this is the environment, this is the interactions that support that, and this is why we really need to think about it in terms of our policy.
Right, and by East Side, you mean the East Side Union High School District, right?
I do.
And
Thank you.
what is their engagement in this, in Educare?
I think what's great is East Side Union High School District is engaged both in providing infant toddler classrooms along with the County Office of Education, and also what's really exciting is they're going to be helping us and the partners lead a career academy for high school students, and that would be an opportunity for high school students interested in possibly looking at careers in early learning, would be able to do coursework, do some of their field practice at Eastside, and then as they graduate from high school, not only get a diploma, but maybe be a couple units shy of getting their AA as well.
Well, thank you. Avo, from the Community Foundation standpoint, what can you do, you meaning the foundation, to increase access to high quality early ed programs?
Yeah, our role is pretty unique in that the Community Foundation has played a convener role for a number of years. We are seen as a safe environment for a number of different sectors to come together and talk about an issue that is affecting the community. And so I think our role as convener to bring different sectors together, like business, like labor, like education, like local government, to all collectively focus on an issue and figure out how the infusion of philanthropic dollars and advocacy can push an issue forward. And that's really our role, and that's the role that we'd like to bring into this space of early learning. We also have the flexibility to do some things that some other public agencies may not be able to do, including polling and getting involved in political campaigns related to ballot measures and so forth. And then we also do direct advocacy and lobbying as well.
I know the Community Foundation has done some significant polling. What does the public think about our efforts in early childhood ed?
Yeah, I mean, nationally, statewide, and now we know locally, the voting public overwhelmingly supports more investments in young children. It's no big surprise. What was surprising, a little bit surprising to us locally, is that voters and the general public see investments in early education as just as important, if not more important, than investments in K-12 education, affordable housing, public safety. And so it really does put this issue on par with the other community issues that are a priority for us.
That's good, and I know that you guys are working more than just Santa Clara County. There's a parallel effort going on in San Mateo County as well. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep. It's called the Big Lift.
The Big Lift.
This is all a big lift.
That effort is a little different than what's going on here in Santa Clara County. But can you talk about the Strong Start initiative in Santa Clara County?
Sure. The Strong Start initiative led primarily from the County Office of Education, and your office, Superintendent, has been a real catalyst for different sectors, again, to come together and figure out what we can do locally for early learning, primarily around getting some more local funding for early education programs to support great programs like Educare and other programs. And it's a very diverse group of folks who are committed to advocate, to do research, and to push the agenda locally to get more funding and policies passed on the local level for young kids.
What efforts are there underway right now to look at local funding options in the absence of a statewide funding initiative?
Sure. Yeah, to back up just for a second, the federal government through their Head Start program, and then the state government through their state preschool and child care programs have never fully funded the need in our local communities in terms of early childhood education and child care. It has never happened since these programs were created in the late 50s, early 60s. And unfortunately, local government hasn't invested in this space either, because their investments are primarily driven towards affordable housing, public safety, emergency rooms, and so forth, all high priority issues in our community. And so what the Strong Start group is trying to do is ensure that the local investments are also augmenting the state and federal investments. Because at the end of the day, the problems the challenges that we see in our society with what these children have, not being ready for school, not reading at grade level, not graduating on time, not getting a job that requires some of these soft skills that are developed early on. All of these challenges that we see with our children are all challenges that have to be addressed by the local community. Not by the state, not by the federal government, but by the local community. Yet the local investment is not there just yet. And so what we're trying to do through Strong Start is say, as you said, John, early on, if we invest in prevention, if we're serious about investing in prevention, we have to invest in early education and early childhood development as a local community.
Right. Exactly. Well, we're out of time, but I want to thank you, Lisa and Avo, for being here to talk to me about this today. This really is an issue that everyone in our community should be engaged in, a conversation we all need to be engaged in, because this is our future. It sounds like a cliche, but our children are our future. And we've been talking for decades about what to do about closing the achievement gap and an opportunity gap, whatever you want to call it. And we know for a fact that this is the best strategy to accomplish that. So we hope that those of you who are watching this will become engaged in your local effort, whether here in Santa Clara County through Strong Start, San Mateo County through the Big Lift, or wherever you are. There are many local efforts going on to try to take care of an issue locally that really should be taken care of on a national and state level. But I keep telling people that if we can't do it here in Silicon Valley, I'm not sure we can do it anywhere. So thank you for tuning in today, and I hope that you will call the county office, the Community Foundation, Educare, any local agency, the education agency that engages in early childhood education efforts, and get involved. Thank you.